A well of living waters. This is for others. We're supposed to be willing to give a word always for the hope that's in us. Why is this hope in us? Because we obey Torah. And we have to be willing to talk to people about that. Verse 16, the Shulamite speaks, Awake, O north, and come, O south. Blow upon my garden that its spices may flow out. Let my beloved come to his garden and eat its pleasant fruits. You know, it's kind of like blow upon my garden or breathe upon my garden. You're not from the north and the south, right? Doesn't Yahweh tell Ezekiel to prophesy to the north and the south and say, give up? And all these are going to come back alive, and he prophesies to the breath and come from the four winds and put breath in them, and they're going to come alive again and come back to him. He's going to gather them back to the land. Kind of like saying the same thing. And it's the bride here saying this, right? And she's speaking to all those others, right? Now over in Revelation, doesn't it say the Spirit, the Word, and the bride say what?
Come.
Come, all you who would come. It's the same thing again. Chapter 5. The beloved is speaking, I have come to my garden, my sister, my spouse. My garden, you remember the parables Messiah spoke about? He goes and he plants a garden, right? And if he come back and if it ain't growing right, he's going to be destroyed, you know, and all this kind of stuff. He said, I have come to my garden. I've come to that which I have planted. My sister, my spouse. I have gathered my myrrh with my spice. I have eaten my honeycomb with my honey. I have drunk my wine with my milk. As an aside to the friends, you have the bride and then you have the friends of the bridegroom. It says, Eat, O friends, yes, drink deeply, O beloved ones. And then the Shulamite says, in a dream, I sleep, but my heart is awake. It is the voice of my beloved. He knocks, saying, Open for me, my sister, my love, my dove, my perfect one. For my head is covered with dew, my locks with the drops of the night. I have taken off my robe. How can I put it on again? She says, I've already gone to bed. I can't get up. I've washed my feet. How can I defile them or make them get dirty again? My beloved put his hand. Uh-oh. I gotta have... Babe, would you get me another tape? I didn't get one. We're almost through here, but I want to get it all on there. Sorry about that. I didn't think it would take this long. Yeah, that'd be fine. I hope everybody's enjoying this.
The Pope is near death.
Yeah, they said that the Pope had heart failure during the night, but he's still clinging to life. I think he had kidney failure too.
Very close, isn't it?
Yeah. Very.
Very close.
They told me the other night that they had read somewhere for the next one in line was the Jewish guy.
I'm just gonna wait and see about that. I mean, there's just no telling until they get someone in.
Nobody really knows.
The next Pope.
I know he said he didn't want to go because he said the Pope that comes after him is going to be the bad one. Okay. Again, in verse 3 there of chapter 5, she said, I have taken off my robe, how can I put it on? I have washed my feet, how can I defile? My beloved put his hand by the latch of the door, and my heart yearned for him. That word latch means by the opening of the door. I arose to open for my beloved, and my hand dripped with myrrh, my fingers with liquid myrrh on the handles of the lock. I opened for my beloved, but my beloved had turned away and was gone. My heart went out to him when he spoke. I sought him, but I could not find him. I called him, but he gave me no answer. The watchmen who went about the city found me. They struck me, they wounded me. The keepers of the walls took my veil away from me. And it's amazing. She's going out looking for her bridegroom, and all the world out there is trying to keep her from it and beating her and everything else. And then she says, I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, if you find my beloved, that you tell him I am lovesick. Now they're saying back to her, what is your beloved more than another beloved? What's so great about the one you love more than anybody else? I mean, everybody out there has got, well, what's so great about yours? You know, you say there's only one way to Yahweh, right? I got my way. What's so great about yours? Is that happening in the world today? How many people are saying, oh, there's a lot of ways to go to God. There's a lot of paths to Him. Yahweh said, Yehoshua said what? No one comes to the Father but by me. There's only one way. What is your beloved more than another beloved, O fairest among women? What is your beloved more than another beloved that you so charge us, or you tell us these things? She said, my beloved is white or bright and ruddy. Ruddy, 122, Adamah, the red blood. It's his blood. Chief among 10,000, or distinguished among 10,000. His head is like the finest gold. His locks are wavy and black as a raven. His eyes are like, he ain't got blonde hair, he got black hair. Okay. His eyes are like doves by the rivers of waters, washed with milk and set fitly. His cheeks are like a bed of spices, like banks of scented herbs. His lips are like lilies, dripping liquid myrrh. His hands are rods of gold set with beryl. His body is carved ivory, inlaid with sapphires. His legs are pillars of marble set on bases of fine gold. His countenance is like Lebanon, excellent as the cedars. His mouth is most sweet, yet he is altogether lovely. This is my beloved. You remember all the description about Satan and how he's covered with all these beautiful gems and stones and so gorgeous and everything, and he makes himself out to be a minister of light? And he says, is any wonder then that his people do his work come as what? Ministers of righteousness. Until you know the truth, the difference between the two, you can be deluded. And then he says, or she says, and this is my friend, O daughters of Jerusalem. Her beloved, she also calls her friend. Yehoshua, when he was here, said, I call you my friend if you do what I tell you to do. In chapter 6, the daughters of Jerusalem are speaking then and saying, where is your beloved gone, O fairest among women? Where has your beloved turned aside that we may seek him with you? She said, my beloved is gone to his garden, to the beds of spices, to feed his flock in the gardens and to gather lilies. He has gone to his garden. Where is his garden? Where he planted the seed. And where did he plant his seed? In the Torah, in the Garden of Eden. I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. He feeds his flock among the lilies. The beloved speaks, O my love, you are as beautiful as Tirzah, lovely as Jerusalem, awesome as an army with banners. Turn your eyes away from me, for they have overcome me. Your hair is like a flock of goats going down from Gilead. Your teeth like a flock of sheep which have come up from the washing. Every one bears twins, and none is barren among them. Like a piece of pomegranate are your temples behind your veil. There are 60 queens and 80 concubines and virgins without number. In literal sense, that's how many he had at the time he wrote this song. How many did it tell us he had later?
1,000.
About 1,000 or 3,000 or something. He had multiples, right? My dove, my perfect one, is the only one. The only one of her mother, the favorite of the one who bore her. The daughters saw her and called her blessed. The queens and the concubines, and they praised her. Who is she who looks forth as the morning, fair as the moon, clear as the sun, awesome as an army or a host with banners? The Shulamite speaks, I went down to the garden of nuts to see the verdure of the valley, to see whether the vine had budded, the pomegranates had bloomed. Before I was even aware, my soul had made me as the chariots of my noble people. Before she realized that she was leading her people to him. The beloved and his friends speak, return, return, O Shulamite, return, return, that we may look upon you. Now the Shulamite says, what would you see in the Shulamite? As it were, the dance of the double camp? 2 houses. That's the Mahanaim. And Mahanaim, remember when Jacob came upon the camp and he said, this is a double camp, Mahanaim. I left with my staff and I have come back now with what? 2 camps is what he said. The 2 houses again. It's amazing how much the 2 houses in most all of Scripture. People see it and look for it. In chapter 7 it says, how beautiful are your feet and sandals, O princess daughter. Curves are your thighs like jewels, the work of the hands of a skillful workman. Your navel is a rounded goblet, lacking no blended beverage. Your waist is a heap of wheat set about with lilies. 2 breasts are like 2 fawns, twins of a gazelle. Your neck is like an ivory tower. Your eyes like the pools in Heshbon by the gate of Bath Rabbim. Your nose is like the tower of Lebanon, which looks towards Damascus. Your head crowns you like Mount Carmel. The hair of your head is like purple. The king is held captive by his tresses. How fair and how pleasant you are, O love, with your delights. This stature of yours is like a palm tree, and your breast like its clusters. I said, I will go up to the palm tree, I will take hold of its branches. Let now your breast be like clusters of the vine, the fragrance of your breath like apples, and of your mouth like the best wine. This sounds, if we just look at it in a literal sense, very lusty as far as between a man and a woman, okay? But at the same time, what it's referencing is the intimacy that's going to exist between Messiah Yahushua and his bride when he comes for her. The intimacy that occurs in marriage will never be the same as that intimacy which is lost prior to. It's never going to be what it should be. Always people are going to wonder, well, what it could have been, or what it might have been, or what could it have been had I not thrown it away some other way. If we just look to what these words literally saying and think of them in that picture, we get all kinds of imaginings in our mind, okay, about things, you know, and what's going on in the world. But in reality, what Messiah is trying to say, this is what the intimacy is between you and I. Okay?
Not a sexual thing.
It's not a sexual thing, no. And there's a greater intimacy between two people in the Word and the Spirit as you come together than there is in any physical sense. The Shulamite speaks, the wine goes down smoothly for my beloved, moving gently the lips of sleepers. Moving gently the lips of sleepers means that he's causing those dead to become revived. Right? His words will revive and bring life to those who are dead. Okay? I am my beloved's, and his desire is toward me. Come, my beloved, let us go forth to the field. Let us lodge in the villages. Let us get up early to the vineyards. Let us see if the vine has budded, whether the grape blossoms are open, and the pomegranates are in bloom. There I will give you my love. The mandrakes give off a fragrance, and at our gates are pleasant fruits is implied. All manner new and old, which I have laid up for you, my beloved. In chapter 8, it says, oh, that you were like my brother, who nursed at my mother's breast. If I should find you outside, I would kiss you. I would not be despised. I would lead you and bring you into the house of my mother, she who used to instruct me. I would cause you to drink of spiced wine, of the juice of my pomegranate. And now she's speaking to the daughters of Jerusalem. His left hand is under my head, his right hand embraces me. I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, do not stir up nor awaken love until it pleases. A relative speaks. Who is this coming up from the wilderness, leaning upon her beloved? I awakened you under the apple tree. There your mother brought you forth. There she who bore you brought you forth. The Shulamite speaks. Set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm. For love is as strong as death. Jealousy as cruel as the grave. Its flames are flames of fire, a most vehement flame. Many waters cannot quench love, nor can the floods drown it. If a man would give for love all the wealth of his house, it would be utterly despised. Now the Shulamite's brothers are speaking. We have a little sister, and she has no breast. What shall we do for our sister in the day when she is spoken for? If she is a wall, referring to a virtue and honor, we will build upon her a battlement of silver. If she is a door, which means easily opened and went into, we will enclose her with boards of cedar for protection. The Shulamite says, I am a wall, a person of virtue, my breasts like towers. Then I became in his eyes as one who found peace. Solomon had a vineyard at Baal Hamon. That means a lord of abundance. He leased the vineyard to keepers. Everyone was to bring for its fruit 1,000 pieces of silver is implied. My own vineyard is before me. You, O Solomon, may have 1,000, and those who keep its fruit 200. The beloved speaks, you who dwell in the gardens, the companions listen for your voice. Let me hear it. Who's he speaking to? That, when he says you who dwell in the garden. You are who dwelling in the garden, in the Torah and the Yahweh, the seed that he's planting, is in us. And we then are the fountain, we're the garden. And he said, you who listen and dwell in the garden, the companions listen for your voice. Let me hear it. The companions want to hear what we have to say, and he's saying, let me hear. You speak to them using my words. The Shulamite speaks, says, make haste, my beloved, and be like a gazelle or a young stag on the mountains of spices. And that concludes the reading in Song of Solomon. I'd like to go over, if you will, to Ezekiel in chapter 37. I know that this is a passage that everybody's extremely familiar with. But in terms of the word and being revived in the two houses, the things that Solomon talks about, and understanding those today, 1 through 14 of Ezekiel 37, and he said, "The hand of Yahweh came upon me and brought me out in the spirit of Yahweh, and set me down in the midst of the valley, and it was full of bones." If he brought him out in the spirit, let's say it's in the word, okay? "Then he caused me to pass by them all around, and behold, there were very many in the open valley, and indeed they were very dry. And he said to me, Son of man, can these bones live? So I answered, Adonai Yahweh, you know. Again he said to me, Prophesy to these bones, and say to them, O dry bones, hear the word of Yahweh. Thus says Adonai Yahweh to these bones, Surely I will cause breath to enter into you, and you shall live." You see, he tells him to prophesy, and in saying prophesy, he's saying, you speak the words which I give you. And the words that he gives to him, the words come forth from the prophet in the spirit of Yahweh, because they are his words into whatever he said, and his words have power to bring themselves to pass. And we'll see that in this passage. He said, Thus says Adonai Yahweh to these bones, Surely I will cause breath to enter into you, and you shall live. I will put sinews on you, and bring flesh upon you, cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and you shall live. Then you shall know, Ani Yahweh, I am Yahweh. So I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and suddenly a rattling, and the bones came together, bone to bone. Did the prophet do anything to make it happen? He just spoke the words that Yahweh said speak, and the words came to pass. Indeed, as I looked, the sinews and the flesh came upon them, and the skin covered them over, but there was no breath in them. Then he said to me, Prophesy to the breath. Prophesy, son of man. Breath, that's Ruach. Prophesy, son of man, and say to the breath, Thus says Adonai Yahweh, Come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe on these slain, that they may live. The breath of his word comes from the four winds that entered into these people, and they become alive. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and breath came into them, and they lived and stood upon their feet, an exceedingly great army. That's the breath, the Ruach came into them. Then he said to me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Ezekiel is latter-day prophecy, is it not? The whole house of Israel is beginning to come alive. And the word, the Spirit of Yahweh, is being breathed into those people who would receive it. They're going to stand up on their feet. And they'll become what? They lived and stood upon their feet, an exceedingly great army. Verse 11, he said to me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. They indeed say, Our bones are dry, our hope is lost, and we ourselves are cut off. Therefore prophesy and say to them, Thus says Adonai Yahweh, Behold, O my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up from your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. He's doing this while these people are in the grave scattered around the world. Kind of like us. Were we not all dead in our sins? So literally we were already in the grave. So when we repent and turn back in obedience to Him, His word comes upon us. His word, His breath comes in us, and we begin to live. We begin to stand on our feet when we begin to speak what His word says. And we become that great army. Now right now, you just look around the world and there's not very many of us, right? But Yahweh sees a lot more than we can. Verse 13, he says, Then you shall know, Ani Yahweh, when I have opened your graves, O my people, and brought you up from your graves. He calls us His people. He said, I will put my spirit in you. If His spirit is His word, is He putting His word in us? And you shall live, and I will place you in your own land. Then you shall know that I, Yahweh, have spoken and performed it, says Yahweh.
Dennis, verse 11, that word dry.
Yeah, it means ashamed.
Yeah.
Yeah, verse 11, it says, Son of man, these bones, the whole house of Israel, they indeed say, Our bones are dry, our hope is lost, and we ourselves are cut off. That word dry there is the number 3001. It means ashamed. All the other words dry there just mean dry. But that one means when you find out who you are and why we are where we are, then we should feel ashamed. If we don't feel ashamed, then what do you feel? Proud. Then you're part of the children of pride. Okay? We feel ashamed because of what's happened, but we repent of it, and we turn back in obedience to Him, and then He says what? Then I'm going to stand you up and bring you back. And we're willing to give up whatever we want for what He wants, then we shall do wondrous things as we move into this future. I don't know about y'all, but I think it's very, very close, with the time when He's coming for us. And I'm not trying to set a date or anything. But I hope that everybody can begin to understand as we celebrate the festivals and the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread and all these types of things, we are walking in the testimony that teaches about Messiah Yehoshua. And if we're walking in these testimonies, these prophecies of Him, we're getting closer and closer and closer. And as we understand and have understanding, then we continue to walk and do it. We continue to receive more understanding. And if we know that we are receiving understanding from His Word, then we know that we belong to Him. And when we're chastised by this Word, it says that He only chastises those who are His sons and daughters. So if you're not being chastised, that means you're not what? You're not one of His. Yeah, you're illegitimate. And I thank you for your time and your patience, and that concludes this teaching for this day.
Proof of that is the fact that the things that used to be imparted